Hello, hello everyone. Welcome. Sorry for the tardy delay. Or start, where are we time-wise? Am I? 7:14. So that's on time for me. So welcome. I'd like to, if everyone would stand up and we would do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thanks. Thank you very much and good evening. So I think we start off with President's report. I see where you're going, sorry. So President's report, very short. Welcome to the new year. This is great. Really want to just give some people an understanding of that. We'll mention some things of there's been a lot of change in our world, in our society in the last little bit, to say the least. Some of the things we've seen both federally and locally will be addressed from our seats in due time, but I wanted to give some comfort that it is on our radar, all the activity and all the things that are happening. So we may not be talking about everything everybody wants to hear today, but we're going to be focusing on the kids, the parents, and the community, because that is what our focus is as a board. So I appreciate the enthusiasm and the change that's being bestowed upon all of us, but we will keep our focus to what is important, and that's going to be the students and the community. And so we'll continue on our path as we move forward. And I just continue to appreciate all of you and all of the folks that are not here, but in the building and the community that are supporting the kids and our environment and what's going on with our day-to-day work. So thank you all, and we'll move on to Dr. Montgomery's superintendent report.
Am I going first? Okay, just making sure. Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm happy to present tonight on a couple topics covering community outreach, the Joint Board Coffee, Book Talk series, as well as a quick referendum update and some calendar reminders. Starting with community outreach, as the board knows, we work diligently to make sure that the team is in front of as many different stakeholder groups as possible throughout the school year. And just to give you a quick look back on what has happened as recently as last week, Dr. Leali and I had the opportunity to present to the Newcomers Club, which is a presentation we gave last year as well, which is an exciting time for people who are new to the community, and talk about, many of them have young students that are getting ready to become school age, and to answer their questions. Some are new to the community with students actually in 65, 67, or 115, and it was a good experience last week. We also meet with the chambers and the realtors on an annual basis, thanks to the partnership that Mrs. Oakley has with the chambers. That is coming up on February 27th, where Dr. Leali and I will present to those stakeholder groups. Remember, the chamber and the realtors are also great outreach experts in their own right with our community, and making sure that they are up to speed with what's happening in the district is paramount to our success. Last week, Mr. Noble joined Dr. Fitzsimmons, Dr. Lenart, myself, and Mr. Remus for a board coffee. We had a nice group, I would say about 15 people total, and we had many different topics covered during that experience. Sometimes we do these about 3 or 4 times a year. Sometimes nobody comes, and sometimes there are 25 people that show up. It's more exciting when people are there, but I will tell you that it is just another example of us trying to meet the community where they are and trying to make sure that their questions are addressed, whatever they may be. This morning there was a joint APT and Spirit meeting in this very room, where we had 40 parents and community members, and I gave a mid-year update for 67, and there was a host of questions, and then there was a psychologist that came in and talked about teenagers and brain development. So it certainly transcended 67 parenthood to 115 with the topics that were discussed. continuing along that same theme in supporting parents and the ever challenging, it's difficult to be a parent in 2020 and then 2020. This is what I'm learning firsthand. So we are trying to level up our support for parents. And there is a series that kicked off last week from Dr. Doug Bolton, and there will be a book talk with his new book that's coming out, I think, in March 17th, called Untethered. That's going to be at the high school on April 3rd, where I will interview him and do an armchair conversation around his new book. And then in March, there will be an interview that I will do at the APT district meeting from Ellen Galinsky. Aaron, Melissa and I met with Ellen today. I have already interviewed Ellen once for a fan network last year when her book came out. The fact that she will be here on campus is a real treat, because if you know anything about Ellen Galinsky, she is a researcher of incredible magnitude, and her books that she has written have earned her a great deal of celebration across both the research world and the education world, from young development, from the childhood ages all the way to teenagers. So her being here with us is exciting. She's actually going to be on campus on March 12th in the evening, and we're going to put her in front of about 30 students between 65, 67, and 115, and she's going to interact with them and ask them questions that hopefully then she can share the responses at the book talk the next day to see if what our teenagers are saying actually is in line with the national norms that she's seen in her research. I am thrilled, and if you have time or you're in town, I would encourage you to come listen to her. She is a rare treat. Doug is also wonderful. I'm just talking about Ellen first because Ellen's is in March and Doug is in April. Referendum update, we are now moving into phase one. If you watched or were here for the December board meeting, you know that we accepted bids for the phase one construction after we have wrapped up the enabling phase this fall. The two phrases that I will say over and over is on time and under budget. The main construction for phase one will begin at spring break. It is a 2-year phase, and it will go through the school year, but the heaviest work will be over the summer months. And the board got a small update tonight at the workshop. We are working diligently to capture student and faculty voice to make sure that we are representing their viewpoints in this design. And there is user groups that are happening or have happened in the recent past and will continue in the future. There was a new Under the Hard Hat episode that was just released today on the window restorations in partnership with some of our Capital Project Advisory Committee, as well as those individuals who are actually restoring the historic windows. I think that the community will be excited to see the care that we're providing to this 1935 building that we're so proud of, that will be celebrating its 90th year next school year. Reminders, Teacher Institute Day, no school on Friday, February 14th. Spoiler alert to the students in the room, I think you're having school tomorrow. Still monitoring the weather as we speak, real time, but please plan on going to bed at a decent time. President's Day, and you already have a 4-day weekend, like let's not get greedy, and learning is important. But you also have Monday, President's Day off, February 17th. So if you are watching this, if you're one of our 3 viewers, and you have children, tell them to go to bed at a decent time. That concludes my superintendent's report. Of course, I'm always open to any questions that may arise.
Thank you, Dr. Montgomery. So on to Catherine and Simon and Dr. Lennart.
This one. All right.
We're changing the format
Still
where we're
getting
all
used to
sharing
the-
our own screens.
Yeah, I'm
So
still trying
it
to
just
get
takes a
used
little
to
moment
that.
for transition.
You've got my little joke up there, though, now. Wait a minute. Now I don't know how to... Okay, here we go. Wait. All right, I couldn't resist. So it's February, I can pull that off, highlights. So I had it correctly, and I thought, oh, I can't resist a little bit of humor here to begin. So here we are in February, and we have a lot to celebrate and certainly a lot to talk about as well. I wanted to begin my report tonight with a little bit of a mid-year review. This year we focused on making sure that we had reports around those very important board priorities that were established last year and at the end of last year and adopted. And so I wanted to just give an update, not only a summary of some of the board reports that we've heard, but also a lot of the work that we've done, just to reassure the board and reassure the community that we are. What you see here at the bottom you can't see well. This is actually an internal document that I've taken a snippet of, and this is what we call a strategic plan tracker. So our administrators and teacher leaders have come together to develop this tool where we actually drop our 100-day plans in and we track to make sure that we are making progress towards those board priorities. And this is something that we check off. We do a 50-day check, and then at 100 days, which we're about to hit the second 100-day plan ending. So these priorities are something we take very seriously and we're really excited to be working on. First of all, that first board priority over academic excellence. And I've actually snipped a little bit off of our new board priority dashboard on our website, and you see that here. I did want to feature that in the background of my presentation tonight. We talked about it a little bit last December. So you see here the first priority around academic success. We're really in that yellow and green because we have 3-year targets, both around ACT performance as well as AP and dual enrollment registration. And you see we're right there we're making progress. We actually did hit the board goal as we reported earlier this year. However, it's something that we continue to work on because next year, or for this year, certainly those scores and the expectation has increased. What are some things that we've established to make sure that we're making progress? We've talked about that ACT tutoring. If you happen to catch the Forest Scout last week, we actually have students who are reporting on that, and they're really enjoying the free tutoring sessions for our juniors. We've also built in ACT skills into our basic classroom practice, not just the content learning, but the teachers have actually taken the hard skills of the ACT to make sure that those are showing up in our classrooms too. We are expanding options for dual credit, and now we're looking at expanding some further options for AP, looking at adding a couple of additional classes next year through the course proposal process, which will actually increase enrollment for a number of our students who perhaps did not typically take AP courses. So we're excited about offering that too. Scout Seminar, that's something we've talked about for the last year, and this is a 9th grade transition course. We're really excited because next year for our rising 9th graders, that's actually required. So after piloting it this year, we'll see a requirement of that next year. There will be an option to waiver out for those students who maybe want to take some extra electives, but it's something that we see as really important and invaluable. We've actually started partnering with our feeder schools, so our feeder middle schools, and we've streamlined some of our multi-tiered systems of support processes even further. Sam Paulson's leading some work between the 2 middle schools and Lake Forest High School to create success criteria for students who are entering the high school. So we're excited about that partnership and those meetings. We're excited to continue that. And then also we have a request for proposal for a better data tool for us to do an even better job of tracking our students, their performance. So this is a lot just around academic excellence, and this is because we have that focus on it, and we're making sure that we're making strides towards that. Another big part of the board priorities, of course, is the portrait of a learner. And this is one that we're taking our time on, not establishing portrait of a learner and its competencies and their importance. Those were established now 2 years ago. But really in what are the metrics that we want to use to measure success towards each one of those competencies. And so what we're doing is we're actually exploring models. We've explored one out of Kansas. Right now we're looking at one out of Princeton. And we're exploring other models that we see at the collegiate level to see, are there things out there that we can utilize, college and career readiness skill models out there that we can actually embed in our portrait of a learner capstone project to create something that's really meaningful for our graduates. We're really in that exploration phase, and according to our board goal, that's where we should be. We're hoping to set the metrics by the end of next school year, actually. I'm hoping we can get it a little bit sooner, but this is something that we want to take our time on, because we're wanting to make sure that we do this really well. This is really important to our community. And I'm going to talk about an opportunity for more shared leadership for our staff, as they're going to be talking about Portrait of a Learner very intentionally just this Thursday, this upcoming Thursday. We've been talking a lot about it in Educational Committee. We're really excited about the work that's happening there. But you see there on our indicator, that's where we're kind of in that red-yellow. We're still learning, we're still growing, and we can't wait to see that green for sure. And then finally, that board priority around culture and climate, which just is really about student participation. We've had a team of teacher leaders and students, the Principals Advisory Council being one, who've really come together around what are those fees, what are those activities that they see that students maybe don't have access to for a variety of reasons, and trying to eliminate some of those barriers. So that's been a lot of our work in culture and climate, is making sure we get student voice around the table, teacher leadership, administrators around the table, to have those open conversations about where do we see opportunities for our students, and then where do we see barriers, and then seeking to plan for those barriers. Things like our activity bus. This is something that's been slow to go because it's new to the community, but we're looking forward to continuing to expand that. That's a free bus service for students who want to do an activity after school. So we've had a number of students who have said that they would maybe be on a team, a sports team, or maybe be in an activity or a club if they had a ride home. So this has actually created an avenue for those students to participate. We've looked at fees, any courses that have typically or historically had high fees on them. Dr. Hermes has masterfully worked to try to eliminate or reduce some of those fees alongside our One Lake Forest Action Team. And then we're also finding activities like the Empower Her Conference, which is this Monday, and sending a group of our students, of our female student athletes, to actually participate in that. So we're looking for ways for us to get our students even more engaged in the greater community too. So we continue to do that as well. Why is this green already? We've always had a high participation rate at Lake Forest High School in extracurriculars and activities. It's really important that we maintain that. So I'm really proud that the board is keeping this as a priority. Maybe it's a goal that we're hitting, but this is a priority. And a big piece of priority 3 in culture and climate is if we see students who aren't engaged, we have to problem solve why as a school community. There might be reasons. Maybe they're competitive, maybe they're an Olympic athlete, but those are things we should know and we should unpack for each student who we see who is not engaged. And so that's why this is something that we as a community, knowing how much we value extracurriculars, this is something we want to keep focused on too. I'm really proud to highlight this, and this is because our professional learning team at the high school, which is teachers and administrators, for this Friday's Institute Day, you see these are actually created by our teacher leaders and administrators as the learning opportunities, the shared leadership and learning opportunities at Lake Forest High School this Friday. And you can see the board priorities all over these. So I think what this illustrates is that shared investment that we have in the work that the community and the board has identified as most important. We have that shared investment, and we're going to build teams of people around learning and leading it. So I'm really pleased, and this was something that came directly from them, and right now is advertised for our staff to participate in. You see literacy skills, which are a big part of the ACT, and we're going to talk about literacy skills as a group, and then how we get content literacy in all of our classrooms. Portrait of a Learner, that capstone, really starting to develop it with the resources that we have. And then that One Lake Forest High School action team, continuing to talk about ways to get students involved. So I'm really excited, and this was just something I was thrilled to share with you and with the community as well. This is another fun event. The APT, 67 APT sponsors this, but of course District 65's APT will participate as well. This is LFHS 101. So it will be in this room, February 27th from 6:30 to 8, and it will be yours truly, and then many of the administrative team who will be talking about all the opportunities Lake Forest High School, as well as just those things that probably every rising 9th grade parent is worried about or concerned about or wants to learn more about. It's an opportunity for them to see us, to hear from us, and for us to be partners and begin that partnership with them too. So we're really excited about that and that opportunity, and that's yearly. So. And shout out to the APT of 67 and District 65 for making sure that that happens year over year. So these are a couple of quick, from Fan Scout shout outs, if you will, that I just wanted to bring to the forefront tonight. One of those is that we had our first annual, and can you say first annual? It's your first time doing it. It will become annual. first, our inaugural Women and Girls in Sports Day. And what was really fun about this day was not just seeing the student leadership and the staff leadership that planned this, the passion that went into this. I think my first year I had a group of student athletes who came in to talk about women and girls in sports and about how do we increase attendance at those events. It means so much to our student athletes to see the fans. How do we make sure that we increase awareness around it? So it's been something that's been a side labor of love for so many of us. But to see this event come together because we had student leadership who came together asking for it, as well as some of our faculty and staff, to be in that first meeting where it was just the dream, and to see it happen that day was absolutely amazing. So on February 5th, we welcomed Nadia Rollinson, who was Nadia Johnson when she graduated in 1997, co-owner of the Chicago Sky, absolute dynamo. Was not an athlete, but definitely is someone who admired athletics and definitely had something to share about her time at Lake Forest High School and what it taught her and the many gifts that it also provided her too. But to see our students be engaged with her in a variety of venues, then to see a live interview with her on stage and the way she captivated the audience. And then one of the best parts, we actually clapped out all of the female sports down the hallway and into the gym, where we then took a big picture with our female athletes. It was absolutely incredible. What for me was most heartwarming was to see those staff members who I know have been saying for a couple of years, how do we bring our female athletes to the forefront at some of these events, and to see just the tears and to see the pride. And that's something that we should all be proud of as well. We had our Scout experience, of course, another great time of pride when you see clubs. I think the bass fishing line was the longest line. I couldn't believe it. Not that it's not great bass fishing, but it was really fun to see so many of our rising Scouts there and our families as well. And then a couple of other great things that happened over the last couple months, the business showcase, which those accelerator students who are pitching their greatest ideas, young entrepreneurs. That's Portrait of a Learner at its best. And then, of course, one of our favorites, the Winter Play, too, where we see our students on stage. And in this case, it was, of course, in the Little Theater, acting and just putting their hearts on display. Today, this afternoon, as I was leaving school, the tryouts for the musicals were happening in the hallway. They were getting ready and prepping. And you think, as you're in that moment, as an educator or just as anyone, you're seeing students who are anxious, who are excited, probably about to try out for some of the same parts, but to see the way that they were all collaborating and cheering each other on, because that's what we do at Lake Forest High School. So it was a point of pride for me, definitely. It was fun to see. With that, I am now going to kick it over to our One Lake Forest High School report and our student update, and we have Kat and Simon.
Is this, I don't know how this works. Does it, okay. I hope this is working. So just kind of going through just what has happened, because I know we haven't presented it in a little bit, and what's happening. So not recently, back in October, we kind of sponsored Olivia Rubeck, who was a 4th grader at the time, but is now a 5th grader at Deer Path, and she was diagnosed with cancer, and we kind of came together as the high school and started a new tradition called Boograms, and it's where students bought little bags of like for $5 to purchase for their friends, and were able to go around, and the day of Halloween we handed them all out, but all proceeds went to her family. So in that card, in this you can kind of see like we all dressed up in it, and then that was a big card, and then kind of with the balloons in the top right corner is her little brother and her little sister. So it was a super special moment that we were able to connect with her and her family and just come together as like a community, starting a new tradition. And then more recently, we had our winter formal, which was a super fun event per usual. And then we had our Glow Pep Rally, which I don't know if you've heard of that, but this year is our first ever winter pep rally, not only it being in winter, but it was also a Glow Pep Rally, which was a total surprise to all of the students. So no one knew about it. When the lights like randomly turned off not even halfway through, like right in the beginning, it was so cool. And there was like a teacher dance, which you can kind of barely see with the little lights in the top left corner, which like teachers out of nowhere came out and started dancing with this. It was awesome. It was a really fun event. So we were super grateful to be able to experience that. For athletics, we've had so many winter sports. I guess, go to state and nationals, including both the varsity gold and blue dance teams who went to state, and then our varsity blue dance team who placed second at nationals for Palms, which was super exciting as a student at the high school. For cheer, they went to state and they placed 11th, which is a record year for them. They've never placed that high before. Gymnastics, they're still going on in their season right now, but they are regional champions and sectional qualifiers. And then for wrestling, we have 4 all-county wrestlers, 2 of them which are girls, which is super exciting as well. College acceptances, seniors are headed throughout the country for college per usual, but it's super exciting to just be able to see how the process and how LFHS is supporting us through this process. So kind of just a brief update how we have people going all the way to Scotland, to Virginia, all over the country for school, which is super cool. And then which is coming up, the student board mixer, which the Principal's Advisory Council is hosting, and we've been planning it for months, which has been a super fun process to go through and be collaborative with all of our students. We are thinking of thought-provoking questions, which we're super excited to. I think Dr. Leonard might have sent out maybe an email saying some of the, I guess, questions that we're going to be asking you as students. We're involving all sorts of student leaders throughout the high school. So freshmen through senior, you're going to see a whole variety of students who are coming to participate in this. It's 15 kids were invited per grade, so it was a very selective bunch who are invited. And then we're excited for the boards, not only to hear about the transition into high school, because it's D65 and D67, but also involving the current student culture and life as well. And then parents were invited to, if they choose to show up with Dr. Leonard for a mixer during that time. So yeah, that's about it.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Aaron okay, well, thank you guys. That's great, awesome update. We're gonna move on to public participation. So if there's anybody who would like to speak to us, that'd be great. We have some specific rules, so unless I'm seeing anybody jumping up to do it, I won't go through all the rules. But all right, so we will move on to the next thing, which is leads into Dr. Sasson and Megan Miles, and their second LFHS post-secondary report that you give us annually. So this is great. Look forward to it. Thank you.
Okay, well, good evening. Thank you, as always, for giving us the opportunity to present on all things post-secondary going on at Lake Forest High School. Kat, I appreciate you alluding to a little of the goings-on and the appreciation you have for the work that our counselors and our educational support staff do to make sure that students, during their times at Lake Forest High School, not only engaged in activities that give them opportunities to think about things after high school, but connect them with their interests and their abilities, and to really have pathways to strive for as they really begin to look at making that transition past the high school. I'm Dr. Patrick Sasson.
Megan Miles, one of the school counselors.
Veteran school counselor who's pitched in to really lend the counselor's authentic voice at tonight's presentation. As we look at, let me see here, I'm new to Canva here, so there we go. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about our graduate data, as I do yearly, giving a sense of where our students went, what our students' plans were after high school. Megan's going to speak to kind of give an overview of the counselor's role throughout students as they matriculate through the high school, students and families. I think you're going to get a really nice in-depth view of what it's like and the services counselors provide. We're talking a lot post-college here, but the counselor's relationships with families goes well beyond that on a day-to-day basis and spans multiple siblings, so it can be over a decade in duration. She's going to speak to some of the trends in the greater college admissions landscape that we're seeing here in Illinois and across the nation. I will talk about a platform that we are proposing, helps tie a lot of our career pathway as well as our academic planning together in successive years. And then, as always, we'll talk about what our next steps are, what our aspirations are, where we see educational services. And then we've got some sincere gratitude to voice tonight. So getting into kind of the breakdown, the distribution, this is a familiar map for those of you who have seen the presentations. Every year we put together kind of a portrait of our graduates, where they've gone. You'll see the distribution by state. To note a little bit this year, we had one student choose an international route this year. Last year we had 6, which was kind of an all-time high, but I know, as Kat mentioned, we will have students pursuing the international route again this year. A few trends. More students, typically Illinois is the #1 state. Our students, with Illinois being the #1 most accepted school for our students typically year in this year out, this year being an exception. But Illinois typically harbors most of the highest number of scouts at the college level. Illinois was a 56 last year for the class of 24. Indiana saw a slight rise. Iowa saw a slight rise, and the University of Iowa particularly has 10 students at it this year for the first time in a long time. Northeast saw modest growth with states like Maryland and Rhode Island having a couple students going to them for the first time in a few years. Southeast has been seeing modest growth over the last several years. This year, Florida and Texas actually saw fewer students coming from Lake Forest High School. Last year, I mentioned in total, our students attended 134 colleges across the nation. This year, that dipped to 124. But what I'm seeing over the course of my time is the number of students who are going, the number for the colleges where the most students are going is dipping, and it's starting to level out. There are a variety of options for our students. Our counselors do a really nice job of keeping them aware of what those options are and really meeting students where they are, given they've had 2.5, 3 years of really getting to know who they are as individuals and as learners. In terms of most attended, most applied to, this year I included the most applied to because I thought it was interesting to see if there was any correlation. This year Indiana had the most students from the class of 2024 with 22, and Illinois came in second. Colorado Boulder saw a significant increase from last year. Miami is an annual contender for that, and this year then the University of Iowa, Wisconsin-Madison, and typically College of Lake County has a strong cohort of students attended as well. But I thought it was interesting when you look at the most applied to schools, there is correlation, and when you think about it, you know, with Illinois receiving 147, so 147 Lake Forest seniors, which is right on about 50% of the class, applied to the University of Illinois, and 20 students decided to go. That's a 14% yield rate. So it shows the work colleges across the country are having to do to try to get their yield rates commensurate with what they expect year over year. With the Common App, as we've talked in presentations in the past, students are applying to anywhere between 12 and 15 schools on average every year, and they're picking typically only one. Absolutely.
Is it unusual that Indiana, more kids choose to go to Indiana than Illinois? Isn't it typically more kids do choose
the last several years, my reports have shown that Illinois is #1, and in years past, CLC has been 2, with then other Big Ten schools and some Southeast schools rounding it out. So yeah. Yeah, at least in the last 3 to 4 years that I can recall. All right. Kind of the numbers breakdown for the class of 2024 is we saw 336 of the 345 reporting were attending a 2 or 4 year college, which is why our services throughout the year are so focused on those. But as you'll see in successive slides, that work is broadening to include students who might be interested in attending a gap year. Our college resource center has a wall of gap year opportunities, and seniors receive communication on that. We've had students enter the workforce. Last year we had 2 students enter the military. But I think the column on the right shows just the extent to which our students report in their senior exit survey, how often they use counselors for the college search process. Typically less than 1 in 4 students report that they hire a private tutor for college search process. They report utilizing their counselors significantly even outside the seminar format, which I've described in years past. And 94% report experiences with their counselors as good or excellent. Getting into the weeds of the senior exit survey, which I didn't provide tonight, the comments that really speak to students saying, look, you had me when I was a freshman. I came into your office every day sophomore year and you were there. My counselor helped me out with everything from grades to personal life to getting a job to making that final decision. Or, I'm sorry you're going to have my brother in 2 years, but unfortunately he's in 7th grade and he's going to be crazy. So, but really those one-off comments were, there were several comments from students who chose simply to say in their waning days at Lake Forest High School, thank you for everything you did to me. It was not lost on me, the care that you gave, academic and both personal and emotional as well. Megan?
All right, so I know Patrick has given an overview of what we do. It is a hard job to describe. When people ask me, and I've done it for 25 years now, what do you do? I'm like, well, we do a lot. There's just a lot. And they're like, well, what do you do all day? And I'm like, well, we just do a lot. So I thought maybe I would try and reframe that a little bit. So in terms of things that we do seminars with the students. We do have a curriculum that we feel is very appropriate developmentally for where the kids are in their phase of development. You don't want to give them too much information about the college process when they're freshmen to create anxiety. They're not ready for that. But you do want to give them a 4-year academic plan. You do want to help them understand what a GPA is, how their grades should reflect their ability, and why it's important to work hard and make sure that that does show who you are. So we have a developmental curriculum, and we meet with the students, and we try to deliver that at more of the age-appropriate time so that we don't increase stress and anxiety about the college application process. We do use Naviance. We have goal-setting surveys that the students do. We have opportunities to use that information as we're meeting with them and kind of see what their interests are and their future goals might be, so that we can better help them just with their individual plans. So we do a lot of these things. We have a college planning meeting with the juniors and their families. These are coming up. We finish registration. We roll right into college planning meetings. So just right about now, I started scheduling those and try to keep it to 3 a day of those. But we'll be doing that all the way through March and April. So we're excited to get started with that. And we have a lot of resources and parent presentations that we have available for families that are navigating through this process. But I did want to talk a little bit more about the relationship that we have with families, because I think it is unique as counselors. And we just met with the 8th graders last week. We were over at Deer Path for a couple days. We were at Lake Bluff the prior week. We have an opportunity to see these kids in 8th grade and start to get to know them and meet their parents and help them with that transition. And some families have one student only that goes through Lake Forest High School, and they'll know us for 4 years, and we're grateful for that time that we have with them. Other families have 3 or 4 kids that might go through, and for some families, we might work together for many, many years, and that is a pretty awesome opportunity that we love. And in that time, we have the chance to establish rapport with the families, trust with them, and earn an opportunity to help them navigate the bumpy road of high school. And that includes future planning, but it also includes math class, and it includes getting up and going to school on time, and it includes a lot of everyday things that can be a real challenge for students. So that opportunity, when I started 25 years ago, I thought I was going to be working with high school kids. And I do work with high school kids, but I did not realize that 50% of my job would be working with parents and families. And I have grown to really, truly love that. At first, it was a little bit of a shock. But I've really grown to value those collaborative relationships and the opportunities that we have to just partner with parents and help them navigate, reassure them that these things are normal, that they're not the only parent dealing with, the challenges of high school and the challenges that their kids may come across. So it's been an awesome opportunity. We have a unique relationship with the kids. And one of our other roles is to be a strong student advocate. And we advocate for our students with teachers. We advocate for our students with administrators. We advocate for their future plans with department chairs regarding curriculum. We advocate in a lot of ways. We don't always make friends when we advocate for our students, but that's not our goal. Our goal is to really help our students and to do our best to make sure that they have the opportunities that they should have at Lake Forest High School. So we advocate with parents, we advocate with teachers. Sometimes we advocate for parents with their own students, depending on if they need a little bit of help delivering a message of reality. We can help with that too. And in a given day, we communicate constantly. We are communicating nonstop via email, trying to keep our inbox to a manageable amount where we're able to make sure that we're getting back to families in their questions. Also problem solving and handling things in a quick and efficient manner, but also taking time to reply and make plans for the things that take a little bit longer. So these are some of the things that we do. We communicate with a large variety of parties on a wide range of topics every day, and that's probably common for many educators. Some of the examples might be in a given day. Mrs. Miles, when are yearbook pictures? Will I get into college if I drop this math class? I can't get my student to school on time. What do I do? How do I help get them up? How can you help me get my student up in the morning? And we'll sit down and we'll talk about it. And sometimes it's very helpful to have another person other than your parent have those conversations with you that can be a little bit of a reality check. How can I get my student more connected socially? Mrs. Miles, can you help me write a statement of continued interest to a school that I was deferred from? We help organize intervention plans for students on a small basis, on a large basis. Is it just a math content issue? Is it 3 classes that we're not doing well in? Is there more going on? What do we need to really assess here? So we do a lot of what we call triage in our office, trying to really assess what are the challenges, what are the things that we need to help with, and sometimes just listening to parents who just need to run some things by you and say, is this, are you seeing this in other places? What are some resources that you might have for me? So that's a little bit of what we do as counselors. We change gears quickly, and we work hard to help our students with their past and their present and their future. So that's a little bit of our role.
Cool. Could I ask a quick question? Yeah. So since you've been doing it for 25 years, what's changed for you if you think back maybe 2014, 2015? What's dynamically changed in terms of how you think of the job back then, but now today?
I mean, there's some things that definitely have changed in terms of just communication tools. We used to be on the phone all the time, and this is similar to, I'm sure, many of you in your positions, but we used to be on the phone all the time. I had a big phone pad thing on my phone so that you could type and look up the kids' grades and still, communicate. And now a lot of communication with students and parents happens via email. The kids are busy and they don't always have time to pop into your office, but they feel free to email you during study hall. Hey, Mrs. Miles, can we talk about this? What do you think about this class? What do you think about this school? So we do a lot of communicating with them that way. Other things that have changed, I feel like kids are very much the same in a lot of ways. A little bit more anxiety possibly about some of the future. The number of applications for colleges has changed. That is definitely something that we can help them navigate. But in terms of kids and families and challenges, I do think we have more resources now than when I first started. Significantly more resources in terms of helping students who are struggling. More interventions, which are great. Really, really helpful for tutoring and work completion and executive functioning help and all of those things. So those are wonderful resources that we have at our fingers now.
Great. And then one says you look forward, just to put you on the spot, says you look forward for the next couple years and things that you think are paramount or you'd like to see that can help support you, and kind of what are the next steps you kind of think or see coming in your eyes?
That's a harder question. I mean, we are busier, you know, and that is a little bit of a challenge. And so that, in terms of support, and we are talking about ways that we might be able to support us a little bit in some of the more clerical areas. But we've taken over 504 management as well, and we're going to be down one counselor next year. So we are increasing our numbers a little bit, although similar to what it was when I started, but we did have a college counselor when I started. So it's, you know, it'll be new challenges. We're trying to navigate those changes as we can. I think we'll still be available for families. They might just have to wait a little bit longer for response time, but we will be there, and we will help them solve their problems. And we will be able to be there for the kids, so we enjoy them very much. Kat's one of my students, so I get to wink over at Kat over there. But yeah. Okay. Uh-huh. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, you're right, and especially junior year. You know, we see it a lot junior year. We do try to manage those anxieties, and really try and just reassure kids that, you know, I think if we focus on 50 schools in the nation, we're going to create a lot of stress. If we talk about all the amazing opportunities there are for future planning, you know, there are so many paths and so many ways to go. And so we try to really focus on the match of schools and not the name of a school. I think that is a disservice to talk about the names of schools. Some of the schools really right now, it's like trying to get tickets to a sold out show. That's what I tell my students. This is not you or your, you know, this has very little to do with who you are as a person or your achievements. It's just that there's so many people trying to get tickets. You just can't get, you know, you've been on, you know, Ticketmaster for 3 days and staying up late, and you just can't, you know, get there. So we try and remind them that there's so many great options and to find the place that fits their needs, and that they're lucky to have our amazing kids. And the colleges do know that. Our kids are pretty awesome. That is for sure. They're pretty amazing. So I did want to talk about a few trends so that we keep us moving along that we're seeing. Wait, no, Patrick, did I go the wrong way? What did I do? Okay, there. I fast forward twice. Okay, so Patrick asked me to just share a couple of things. So I'm sharing one that is brand spanking new. We are very excited about this. This is a direct admission program that the universities of Illinois are starting for students. This is a trend across the nation in states for public universities right now. So you're seeing different states. I was wondering when Illinois was going to be jumping on board. Wisconsin started last year. And here we are. So they are starting right now, January 2025. This applies to our current kids. And there is a new direct admission program for 8 of the schools in Illinois. So our 3 most competitive state flagship universities are still not participating, but the anticipation is that they will join this in some way in the next few years. And ISB is going to be putting some pressure on that process. But Chicago State, Eastern Illinois, Northern Illinois, Northeastern Illinois, Governors State, Southern Illinois, Carbondale, Southern Illinois, Edwardsville, and then Western Illinois are all participating in this direct admission program. And what direct admission means is they're trying to reduce barriers in the application process for students to get offers of admission to colleges. And so I love the way that Illinois is doing this. And basically, if students just create a Common App account, which involves very minimal information, and put in their current grade point average, and their GPA scale. So for Lake Forest High School, that would be a 5.0 scale that we're on. So they put in their GPA, they put in the scale, And then these colleges have a GPA cutoff that is the minimum that they would be looking for admission for these kids. Every week, the colleges are going to be gathering that information from Common App and updating it. And if a student meets their criteria on their Common Application, they're going to get a little flag that says, you have been admitted to Western Illinois University, with, I mean, very, very little information so far. And they're counting on the fact that our students are taking the Illinois high school graduation requirement courses, and they will verify it with a copy of the transcript, but they will offer them admission as long as they complete the application. And when they do complete the application, they will not have to do the essay or do teacher recommendations. So they're really limiting the amount of information that they need from the kids. And that's going to be, it's literally starting right now. So you guys might even see it in your Common Application popping up this in the next few weeks. It will be available for the class of 2026 in September. So for those kids, when they start doing their applications, this is going to be something that pops up for them right away. And in the beginning of the year, we meet with our students, we do a Common App account, and we have them fill out and match up their Naviance accounts. When we do that this next year, we're also going to have them include that one last piece of information, which would be their GPA. So when we meet with them early in September, they're going to be able to have these offers of admission, every student that, so that would be, I know we don't have a huge cohort that attends Illinois state schools, but they would now have this opportunity, and this is for every kid. So it's pretty exciting, and we're hoping that Illinois State, at least Illinois State and University of Illinois Chicago, would jump on this bandwagon. U of I has some different recommendations and requirements that might make GPA alone a little bit tricky to use as a criteria, but it's exciting as a development. So anyway, that is brand new, happening right now. And then the other trend of test score optional is continuing, and we are finally able to track that. So I did want to just give you guys a little bit of data on that. COVID happened, standardized testing was impossible to get to. The kids were driving to Indiana. I think, wasn't your daughter one of those kids? She had to drive to Kentucky to take the ACT, Patrick's daughter. It was crazy. Kids couldn't take the tests, so they just said, you don't have to take the tests anymore. As they did that, they put that on like a 5-year plan. So that 5-year plan is starting to kind of trail off. Now they're going to have some data. Those kids that applied test score optional, what does that look like? How are they performing in the colleges and universities? So colleges and universities are reflecting on this. Some of them have added back in the test score. They feel like it's a component that they need. Not very many have done that. Some schools have done that only for certain majors. If you're an engineering major or a business major or something that requires a lot of math, they might want to see that math score. Lots of colleges are still test score optional and will remain so and have made a commitment to that. But for us, since we can now track it, last year, 2023, we had at least 871 applications that students submitted without test scores. And in 2024, we had at least 1,011 applications that were submitted without test score. And I say at least because this is self-collected from students who we ask in May about their process in November, and believe it or not, if you have a senior, they can not always remember which ones they did and did not. But they do remember when they for sure didn't send it, so we have at least 1,011 last year that went that way. Of those, 489 of the 2023 class of 871 applications, those students were admitted without those test scores, and 605 this last year of 2024 of the 1,011 applications were admitted without test scores. It's a challenging thing to navigate for kids right now because many students will send their test score to one school, not send it to another school, and we as counselors try to help them make those decisions. It is ultimately a family's decision whether or not they want to send a score anywhere, but we do try and help them navigate which schools it might be an asset and which schools it might be helpful for scholarship money, and which schools maybe it might be best not to send that score to. So kids are navigating that, which I think is a challenge, a new challenge. If we were talking about new things, that's hard to know. Is my score good enough to help me, or is it going to hurt me? And schools have different policies. So that's a hard one to navigate, but we are trying to help them with that. And the optional option is just great for students who don't, where their grades are a much stronger indicator, than their test score would be of their success. Okay, I'm talking too much. Last thing I want to talk about was early decision. So the early decision process, Patrick mentioned yield a little bit ago. Colleges, with the number of applications increasing, have a little bit of trouble predicting we have this many dorm rooms, we have this many beds for students. How many kids do we admit to get the number of students in the beds and not overdo that, so we have to go and have kids staying in a hotel, how do we navigate that? So they use a combination of opportunities. They use early admissions for that, they use early decision for that, and then they use their wait list for that. So they'll take some kids this way, and then if they're under a little bit, they'll go to that wait list. If they're over, they might not go to their wait list that year, and that's how they sort of navigate that, kids in beds. But the early decision option is a great option for both kids and for schools, because for a school it means if this student applies early decision, they are making a commitment to attend. If I admit them, they are a 100% yield for me. So that is a really good thing for them. So a lot of schools take a number of their kids that way. Certain schools take more than half of their class with early decision. Our kids are taking advantage of that opportunity. And there also is now, early decision deadline is in November 1st, and there is now a movement to have these early decision 2 applications that are coming out in January. So the schools want to try and get the kids that didn't get into their early decision 1 school, because they're high-end kids, they're strong students, and they want to give them another chance to do that. So they often will have an early decision 2 opportunity, and that happens in January, which is the same date as the regular deadline. So you're applying to a school, and if Patrick's applying and I'm applying, I might be applying early decision and he might be applying regular decision, and I'm the one who's telling the school, if you take me, I'm coming, like I am 100% in. It helps the schools navigate that yield and the sincerity of the students and their applicants. So numbers of our kids who have done that. In 2022, we had 81 students apply ED1, and we had 18 students who applied ED2. 42 of those applicants were accepted to their early decision school. In 2023, we had 115 students who applied ED1, 20 students who applied ED2, and 54 of those applicants were accepted into their ED school. And last year in 2024, we had 104 students apply ED1, 26 students apply ED2, and 53 of those students were accepted into their early decision school. So it continues to be a really nice opportunity for our students. About a third of the class is choosing to engage in that. It does not always make sense for every kid, but we do encourage the kids to take advantage of that statistical benefit when they can. And our kids are doing that on a regular basis and having success with that route. So that's a cool thing as well. And I think those were all of my trends. Any questions on those things?
I gotta say one more thing. So every time I run into Megan at Target or Heinen's or any place else in our shared community, I swear I'm not gonna fall all over her with gratitude, and I do it every single time. Like the endorphins I get when I see you, because you believed in my kid when I did not believe in my kid. And so we had these sessions where Megan would give this kind of information at this speed, and we were just absorbing, and then Megan would turn around, she put in an audience. I think you should go to this school. I think you should take a gap year. And we just followed the plan, and it was phenomenal. So I'm gonna do this to you, I think, every time I see you, and I can't stop. So thank you for everything. You know.
Thank you, Sally. Okay, I'm going to be brief in bringing this to a conclusion. Megan, that was phenomenal. That really, really, really was what I was hoping, the voice and the authentic insights as to the day-to-day and in the trenches with our students and families, as our counselors do. I've referenced career pathway programming in the past, and Steve Douglas referenced it, reported on it early this year. So I'm not going to go into great detail. I will say last year we stood up through ISB 3 career pathway endorsements. The career pathway endorsements are in the different career clusters. This past year, we had a new media pathway, an environmental science pathway, and a CNA, the certified nursing pathway, 2 at the high school, 1 through tech campus. We are required by ISB to add 3 per year through 2030. We thought we'd add 9 this year, so we're proposing 12 this year, including the 3 that were approved by ISB. ISB's in the approval process, but the work that Steve Douglas has done as the business department chair and career pathways department chair is really integral in creating the pathways that we believe will give students an opportunity to aspire to certain things, have conversations, and really reflect with their families and their counselors and their teachers on, are there pathway endorsements that I, by virtue of what I sign up for, what I plan for, what I already do extracurricularly after school, can I achieve? And do I want that endorsement on my diploma? Do I want that endorsement on my 7th semester transcript when I submit it to my colleges of choice? And so we're really looking to accelerate and amplify the pathways that we provide. Part of that vehicle is through dual credit classes. A 6-hour component of a pathway endorsement, regardless of the field, is 6 hours of dual credit or AP instruction. We offer 32 AP courses. This year we offered 5 dual credit courses, but for an example, we are offering a new course, dual credit business principles class through the partnership with the College of Lake County. That dual credit business principles class, which is a freshman semester class, all classes can sign up for it, will be a foundational dual credit opportunity that will give our students an opportunity to potentially pursue a career pathway endorsement in accounting, marketing, business, entrepreneurship, and law. So it's one of those foundational classes. Steve's worked very closely with the College of Lake County, with Loyola University, and with Lake Forest College. Our goal is to expand authentic dual credit opportunities for our kids at the smallest cost possible for our families, and that depends a lot on materials and the partnerships and the institutions. We are casting a net to say, are we partnering with the right colleges? Are there cost prohibitive factors with these relationships? And can we spread a wider net around other community colleges and universities in the area? The last thing I'll say about the Career Pathway Endorsement Program is we are not the endorsement plans. We are not in an arms race with neighboring districts. This is not about building as fast as we can. This is not about putting a glossy magazine together with all of the different pathways. This is about building authentic, genuine working relationships for our kids, meeting them where their interests are, giving them an opportunity to reflect, get a sense of their aptitudes and interests in different areas, speak to professionals, go to job sites, do internships, visit companies, and really, really have a better sense of where they fit in the things that they are interested in, so that as they join with their counselors in pursuing post-secondary, it could look myriad ways, but it truly is more opportunities for them to tap into their passions and their interests. I mentioned the platform that would help us kind of warehouse all of this data. My first year in the district, we were partnering with ECRA to try to pilot what we called a personal scout hub, which was going to be for our students a personal scout hub that they would allow them to access all things, aggregate and access all things academic and extracurricular, jobs, resumes, while we have done much of that work in Naviance. In August of last year, the Regional Office of Education in Lake County Superintendent gave every public school in Lake County access to the SchoolLinks career endorsement platform. So we began to dabble in that and see what it could provide us. The snapshots here, the screenshots here are essentially what our students would see if we began to expand SchoolLinks to really be the platform that's comprehensive, that's the warehouse that students can utilize to track four-year academic planning, post-secondary planning, all resume building, career and aptitude surveys, the results of these aptitude surveys, then filling, if you see on the bottom left, the dashboard with a news feed, students who utilize career surveys or aptitude surveys in SchoolLinks once their results are registered, once they've liked or favorited a certain career or cluster. We'll begin getting news feeds in their personal dashboard specific to those careers, whether it be area internships, whether it be jobs or job fairs. So we believe this is all things career pathway as well as academic and post-secondary. And so we want to be thoughtful about this because right now our seniors and our juniors are facile in Naviance as it relates to college applications. We don't, as our counselors, absolutely. We want to be thoughtful in terms of the timing. We're not going to rip Naviance away from our juniors for next year, so we're going to do a slow 2-year rollout, migrating in incremental so that our freshmen, sophomores, and juniors next year will begin to dabble in it and get used to it and begin to utilize it, while our seniors will have a known entity to do the college admissions process. Lastly, as always, where are we looking to in partnership with the stakeholders that we've been speaking to tonight? Continuing to expand our dual credit opportunities. That's the partnerships we have with area schools, the classes and the curriculum we want our students to experience, and then the teachers and how they are credentialed in order to be able to teach dual credit courses. We want to continue to expand career pathway endorsement areas, utilizing School Links as that warehouse for students to aggregate and track their progress. We want to work this next year on a very thoughtful migration to School Links so that all stakeholders have the information they need, so that it's a product that our families can utilize to the fullest hilt. And our counselor, we want to continue to build that senior capstone that Dr. Lenart referenced, delineating as it's delineated in our strategic plan, facilitating students to highlight their personal growth during their time at Lake Forest High School. These reflective pieces can be an opportunity for our students to differentiate themselves during the college search process. And lastly, we'll continue to engage in professional and program development to ensure our students and families have access to the most updated information during the college search process. Lastly, we wanted to take an opportunity to thank specific members of the school community, specifically our school counselors, for the care and guidance they provide, our ed services staff for the post-secondary work they partner with students on, every teacher who wrote a college recommendation or half a dozen college letters of recommendation. As I mentioned, Mr. Steve Douglas for his work on the career pathways, the 115 board for your continued energy and enthusiasm around this, Drs. Montgomery, Drs. Lenart, Dr. Fitzsimmons on your support and your ongoing conversations and guidance with this, all of our community partners and our parent groups who excitedly give our students opportunities to see workplace environments or have professional conversations around what a day in the life of an attorney or a business person is. And then Megan wants to give her gratitude.
I was just, we do have one of our counselors who is retiring this year after a long career with Lake Forest High School. So he's not here tonight, but we did want to just, as a team of counselors, just share for a moment just our appreciation of Brad Naughton and his service over the years to Lake Forest High School. When I started 25 years ago, I was this young counselor, and Brad was the closest to my age, but he had been there for a while. And then it was all folks who had been there a very long time. And so Brad became my mentor and really shared with me what I was supposed to do and what I was not supposed to do. And very clearly he did this. And when I'd volunteer for too many things, he'd like, you have to stop. Like, you cannot do all these things. So so in terms of Brad Naughton, he has been a huge, huge asset to our counseling team. He started as a history teacher, became a counselor, always refers to his job as his profession, his career, his choice and his passion. He's very passionate about being an educator and the career that has provided for him. We are going to miss his professionalism greatly. He has an excellent sense of humor, and he also brings farm logic to the table all the time after growing up in Sterling, Illinois, surrounded by farmland. He has some great stories and some really good farm logic, as we like to call it. We will also miss his disdain for icebreakers, which I think probably some people share. He's just more vocal than others about that. He's kind of our Ron Swanson, if you will, of the counseling department. And I think he has an excellent rapport with students and athletes, and that is seen clearly every day. There are track kids that come in and spend time with him and appreciate his leadership, both in the weight room. I was down there the other day and saw him trying to teach maybe 20 girls how to do power cleans and push press in the weight room, which is a challenge with all those kids. And he just handles it amazingly. And they listen to him, they respect him, and they adore him. I think mostly we're going to miss the perspective that he has. It comes with a lot of experience and just a lot of years of experiencing variety of student situations, parent situations, and navigating them with grace for his kids. So we are going to miss him greatly and appreciate his many years of service to Lake Forest High School in so many areas. So we appreciate Brad, even though he is not here. Wanted to share that.
And if there are any other questions, we're happy to answer them. But thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Really insightful. A lot of good stuff, and I know the effort's tremendous over there, so thank you. Want to work or go on to the board committees. So policy we have up. I don't know if Sally, you have some updates real quick on policy?
We don't have any updates.
All right, we'll go to liaison reports. So super quick, ed red and legislative updates. I was a part of a couple different meetings, and to what I said in the president's report, there are discussions actively across IASB and ed red around the executive orders we've seen and individual state reactions and the differences between the two and how those get settled. So what they talked about is other things we've talked about internally, which has simply been there's a 90-day window of trying to implement some of the executive orders and what we're seeing. And so there's a lot of news to come, and both EdRed and ISB communicated the same thing, which is they're going to be watching that and seeing how the state reacts, as well as the feds do as well. So there's more to come, and we'll just kind of stay abreast of that. So on to True North, John?
Nothing in addition to the already submitted report.
Thank you. All right, so on to action items. Action item number 1, approval. May I have a motion for the approval of the resolution regarding the proposed withdrawal of School District 34 from the True North Education Cooperative?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
A little bit of context. Dr. Montgomery on this one?
Of course. So as you have read, I think I sent all of these documents in December because the 67 board had to take action prior to the 115 board, given the scheduled date of their February meeting being outside of the 60-day window. Should one of the member districts want to withdraw from the cooperative, they have to follow certain requirements, and I'm going to read them to you. The consensual withdrawal requires unanimity, I can't say that. Unanimity, apparently I'm getting tired, forgive me, unanimity of all member districts, and they have to petition to withdraw and include all supporting materials to the member districts, which they have, which is what I shared for you, or to you, and then all districts must consider the resolution that is before you tonight. If one district of the 18 denies this resolution, it is no longer considered a consensual withdrawal. There has already been at least 2 that have denied it. The reason that we are proceeding with this vote is to have on record our position. Regardless of whether or not there is one or more, now they will move into non-consensual withdrawal, which includes submitting their proposal to the applicable ROEs, which in this case is both Lake and Cook counties, and then it will go through the Illinois School Code procedures for the appeal process, which I anticipate happening. I am still in favor of us taking or bringing this forward to you and taking a vote. The 67 board voted in support of the withdrawal. I would also tell you that I am in support of this withdrawal, given the fact that it seems continually cumbersome and maybe even impossible to withdraw. And I don't know that, I think this message, if you should support it, would allow the superintendents to come together with the board members who are on that and say, perhaps we have a problem of practice we need to look at differently, because if a member district wants to remove themselves from the services and not elicit any services, such as Glenview, they do not subscribe to any services, but they still have to pay the fees as members, I'm not quite sure we have the best bylaws set up. That being said, the bylaws that are in place are due to a previous district withdrawing and a group of superintendents that came together with the board to make it more difficult for this very reason, because they wanted it harder for districts to leave. I just don't think we've hit the mark, and there's more work to be done in this area. If you look at the financials, the increase to 115 for next year goes from, it says previously approved O&M assessment amount with 18-member districts is $32,893. With 17-member district, it increases to $37,000, $247. The membership will go up from $46,873 to $53,000. Professional learning will go from $46,000 to $52,000. And the property, plant, and equipment will go from $55,000 to $62,000. Here's what I'm going to say to all of this. I asked the question to the leadership of True North, in the event that we go from 18 to 17, perhaps it would require us to look at our budget differently. And instead of just redistributing the cost unilaterally across all of the districts, perhaps we need to look at how we are spending our resources and then cut proportionally to offset the increase in costs. That was not met with a great fanfare, but that is how we do business here, and I would encourage a critical lens with True North right now as they evaluate the membership districts.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion, I should say, on the topic before we vote?
I think I'm generally in favor of your recommendation for the reasons that you said. I do think we should consider having the issue of True North as maybe a board workshop topic in the future. Just, you raised a lot of big questions about their structure and how we're dealing with them that I think we should be speaking on with a unified voice if possible, or at least helping advise you about how best to approach them, because it seems like this is maybe a symptom of a couple of other problems, the way things are structured.
Be happy to do that, and perhaps we can look to Jenny Sturpin and bring her in to help provide some insight of what services we're using this year, what services we're anticipating using for next year, because we're evaluating the services that we're contracting through True North for under a critical lens. Maybe that will help give you a better picture of where we are in terms of the services, and then also have a broader discussion of where are we with our partnership.
Thank you, Annie. Anybody else? All right. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Ms. Helms?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Dr. Vinson?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Weinberner?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 2, may I have a motion to accept the 2023-2024 annual financial audit?
So moved.
Second.
And just for clarity, we had this is in our Finance and Ops in the Committee of the Whole earlier, and thank you again, Jen and the whole team for the work on that, and really appreciate it. If you don't mind, just a super quick summary of the clean audit and some of those other things that came through very, very well. So if you could just kind of maybe define those for the record real quick in terms of the highlights, but I appreciate that.
Sure, happy to. So this is an independent annual audit as required by the state of Illinois. It is a clean, unmodified opinion, which means that's the highest level of assurance that an auditing firm can provide. There was no management letter, nor were there any findings conducted during the actual audit.
Great, thanks. Any other questions or comments? All right, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Weinberner?
Aye.
Ms. Zinser?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Dr. Vinson?
Aye.
Mr. Noble?
Aye.
Ms. Helms?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And item number 3, may I have a motion to approve Perkins and Will referendum projects and enabling phase design development fee alignment proposal? Dr. Hermes, one more time.
So moved.
I need Dr. Hermes to tell me. Oh, do we get a motion? Sorry. Did you get a motion? Oh, so there we go.
So moved.
I have a second, please?
Second.
Now, Dr. Hermes, sorry.
He's trying to knock me off my game. All right, we'll go fast on this. Very similar, as we will see throughout this project, we will see adjustments to fees from Perkins and Will as we move scope of project between phases. You will also see a consistent pattern from us trying to put as much forward in the project as early as possible. So we do have a few things on the enabling phase we are finishing up since they needed a little bit of additional research. Some of the specifically that you'll be interested are the historic lights right at the front of the building. So obviously those were, let's just be honest, old, and they took a lot of time and attention to make sure that we're going to get them right. So we will see things pushed forward and pushed up. This is very similar to what you did in December for the phase 1. Now that we're almost nearing the end of the enabling phase, it's just a true up to that existing cost.
Thank you. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Dr. Vinson,
Aye.
Ms. Davis,
Aye.
Ms. Helms,
Aye.
Mr. Weinberner,
Aye.
Mr. Burns,
Aye.
Mr. Noble,
Aye.
Ms. Zinser.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 4, may I have a motion to approve the fire protection bid approval for referendum phase 1?
So moved.
Second.
We covered this before, I think, when we were talking in the workshop. So can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Weinberner,
Aye.
Mr. Noble,
Aye.
Mr. Burns,
Aye.
Dr. Vinson,
Aye.
Ms. Davis,
Aye.
Ms. Zinser,
Aye.
Ms. Helms.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. For the consent agenda, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, including items 1 through 11, please?
So moved.
Second?
May I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Burns, Mr. Noble,
Aye.
Ms. Davis,
Aye.
Mr. Weinberner,
Aye.
Ms. Zinser,
Aye.
Dr. Vinson,
Aye.
Ms. Helms.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. FOIA requests, Sarah Reed Smart Procure 202, John Emsner 1 of 1 completed, James Francis 1 of 1 completed, Owen Wang Lake County Gazette 7 of 7 completed, Lake Forest Corruption Busters 3 of 3 completed, Judith McAndrew 2 of 2 completed. This is the last chance for public participation, so I would like to simply say hello to our guests earning their badge under the beautiful leadership of Mr. Vandervelder. So if you would care to introduce your crew, that would be great. You do not have to, but since you sat through the whole thing to earn your badge, before we adjourn, I wanted to give you that opportunity, and thank you so much for selecting us as your opportunity to do that.
Can you tell us where you go to school right now, the 4 of you? One Deer Path, 1 Lake Bluff, 2 Lake Bluff, and 2. Great. Well, we look forward to having you at Lake Forest High School.
Thank you for being here, and it's not super exciting stuff, is it? Yeah. So I appreciate you staying awake. So you guys did good.
Yeah, could we do a quick picture? You have done your time, so to speak. Us too. So would you come up here and we'll get a picture with the board? No, let's just do it really quickly. Mrs. Oakley is moving, and let's do it. And it is official, we are having school tomorrow in Lake Bluff and Lake Forest.
That's a good thing.
Congratulations. Congratulations. You get a
got
day of learning
you got
tomorrow.
A 4-week holiday. Give me a break. Announcements. February 14th, Institute Day, no school. February 17th, President's Day, no school. All right, Tuesday, March 11th, Education Committee of a Whole. And that is also our next board meeting on Tuesday, March 11th. May I have a motion to adjourn the Lake Forest Community High School District 115 board meeting for February 11th, 2025?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a voice vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.